Hello, everybody. Good morning from Athens in Greece. I'm Photius, and this is my actual name. Believe it or not, it's on my birth certificate. Long story. There's also a QR code if you want things more automated. Anyway, today, let's speak a little bit about fashion and geopolitics. They're related. And why am I saying that? Here is a picture of Melania Trump. Knaus Trump. She is the First Lady of the United States, and like the previous wife of Trump, she is an immigrant, just like myself. In fact, she used the same immigrant category in her application that I did, which is like an exceptional ability in the arts and sciences, which means she must have a very high IQ. Blondes are not always dumb, obviously. But why am I saying this? In addition to being an immigrant, Melania, who favors Christian Dior and Chanel and Burberry, but lots of foreign designers and American designers, she loves Karolina Herrera. I think. She is a Venezuelan immigrant whom the United States is not going to deport to El Salvador. What Donald Trump is doing with Venezuela is alarming. And I'll explain to you in a minute. See, he has denied the protective status that Venezuelan immigrants and some immigrants from other countries had in the United States. This situation, this kind of status started many years ago. There was a protective status for people from Cuba. After the Castro regime came into power. Now, the problem with Venezuela is that it's wheeling and dealing with China and Russia out of necessity. Who else are you going to deal with when the United States has put sanctions on you and boycotts and tries in every way to do yet another regime change, of which the United States has done a series of. And yes, the Chinese and the Venezuelans, because the Chinese are not concerned with the internal affairs of other countries like America or the flavor of politics that other countries use, signed a contract whereby they do bartering. They cannot buy and sell things in US dollars, obviously, that's another boycott. So in exchange for a lot of good things that China is doing in Venezuela, building infrastructure, repairing the oil industry infrastructure, etc., in exchange for oil. Venezuela, of course, is the largest oil reserves in the world. And in addition to that, they had the nerve to be close to the United States, closer than China. And of course, the Monroe Doctrine, which is like an appendage to the big gospel of the United States policy, says, this hemisphere is our neighborhood, stay out. What are the poor Chinese going to say whose neighborhood has been infested by American presence? The problem is that China is not the China of the late 20th century. China today, as I mentioned in my previous podcast, is now richer than America. This is real GDP. China first, US second. And it's not just the money. Consider that for every battleship, like Donald Trump said, we build one ship a year. The Chinese build, half the Greek ship owners' fleet. Not only that, technologically, they are far more advanced than the United States. Quite a few years ago, the Chinese experimented successfully in quantum encryption from signals from a space satellite to the ground. And now they're working on having quantum encryption via, fiber optic, etc., on the ground, on the Earth. As we know, quantum encryption is unencryptable, and that means that, you have an idea. Now, let's leave fashion apart and send many greetings from me to Jimmy Kimmel in Hollywood, who is one of those speakers who are no longer allowed to speak because it's a free country. And he should know Athens is very much like that. He should come visit. We have the mountains in the back. We have the sea, the beaches in the front. We have the various hills in between. Los Angeles was my favorite American city for that reason and for the aura of the city. Of course, we have other things in common too. A very mild climate. I remember sunbathing by the swimming pool in downtown Los Angeles in January. And then I could have also gone skiing in the mountains. We have skiing in the mountains too, sometimes if it snows enough. And we also have, the wildfires in common with Los Angeles. But we have better earthquakes than Los Angeles. The problem with US and Venezuela is something to watch. It is very current now because in addition to the United States Navy bombing little fishing boats which are alleged to carry narcotics, illegally, of course. I don't think the government has the legal right to do what they did without at least some consent or at least informing Congress. And from what I heard lately, Trump said that if things don't change, something like all hell will break loose in Venezuela. Okay. I remember when Ronald Reagan conquered this little island of Grenada, which is less than a little dot on the map. That was funny. Well, yeah, they can do a number on Venezuela, although Venezuela does have some military force of their own. And what they do have is the backing of the now preeminent great power, which is China. China is not a great power because of the money, and I showed you the money before. Look at what our technological advancement, infrastructure. In other words, they have like, I don't know, 40,000 kilometers or 30,000 miles of high-speed rail. High speed in the United States means the Acela train that goes from Washington to Boston, whereby, for the time being, only in some parts of the route, they can go up to 165 miles per hour, kilometers, I don't remember which I think was the speed that the Japanese high-speed train had 50 years ago. There's 400 kilometers an hour between Shanghai and the airport and up to Beijing in the process now. And Chinese are working on a train that goes 600 kilometers per hour. In other words, you go there before the airplane takes off and lands if you consider baggage, etc. The United States, in absolute terms, spends between government and private sector more in dollar terms on basic research and development, R&D. However, even though the money is less, how can the United States compete with 200,000 researchers, know how many hundreds of thousands of researchers in China? China produces many times more science, technology, PhDs than the American universities, from where most of the graduates are from South Asia or China. In other words, if the Indians stopped going to university in the United States and the Chinese, the amount of PhDs graduating from American universities in technical fields will be insignificant. Well, to make a long story short, under this administration of Donald Trump, the police state of the United States will not become a banana republic, but, to use Donald Trump's favorite expression, a shithole country. Sorry for the expression. I don't mean any offense to individuals, except for one. This is Photius. We'll see you next time.